We're going to be kicking it with some speed paints, drawing cinematic anime illustrations within Clip Studio Paint. These will all be anime manga chapter covers from my series Apple Black. Chapter 29, Doomsday Clock, and obviously it's called the Doomsday Clock for narrative reasons. If you read the chapter, if you get volume 4 when it drops, you'll kind of understand why. I chose to have Erotis on the cover, also for narrative reasons, but I wanted to make sure it was something more cinematic than usual. I think my most cinematic manga anime volume chapter covers are mostly in volume 4, but we'll see how it is and how it works out moving forward for volume 5, 6, and so on. In this illustration, we get to see Erotis from behind in this weird void that has some inspiration from Death Stranding. I draw a lot of symbolic inspiration from a lot of things, but with Death Stranding and the beach within literature symbolizes death in many ways. We kind of go over it in the beach YouTube video that I talked about with anime characters always being at the beach. But here we focus less on the beach and more on Erotis, the character. Erotis is kind of like this sentient god, but kind of like a Siri, kind of like a guide. And somebody had a comment very recently about liking Erotis' design, but also the fact that a lot of times within shonen manga and the main character having that inner being within them, they enjoyed the fact that this one was also different and is also a different gender than the main character. All decisions that I thought were interesting, but that also served the narrative of the story. So we see the character from behind in this symbolic pose with some sheer floating from behind. I wanted to make sure that when I drew these and rendered these, it was going to be a little bit more complex than your straightforward 2D cel shading animation approach. I wanted to have some airbrushing going on, and definitely made sure I was going to play with a little bit of lighting here and there. If you look very closely in the sky, you can also see these 3 windows strategically placed. They also mean what they mean. Again, I'm not gonna spoil absolutely everything about my series. Hopefully you guys check out the series and the books kind of explain these and you get to experience it for the first time through the books, which is the main purpose of them. But this is a fun illustration. Even the subtle rainbow in the sky. Also some Death Stranding inspirations from that as well. But I like the muddy sky and the clean focus of the main character, at least the main subject of this illustration. Chapter 30, Deity. Clearly you can see me on Pinterest kind of looking for inspiration. I wanted to have something where the character is kind of floating in the sky behind the moon, everything really red. Also a decision that ties in from a narrative standpoint in this chapter. There's a scene in this chapter that's probably one of my favorite scenes to write. It's one of those moments where I feel like I wrote something that I truly have never seen before, like at all. Obviously I'm drawing inspiration from a lot of things, but this was unique. It was different in a way. And it was also different for the series because I think it also has some of probably the darkest moments of the entire series. And I like that it's reflected in the cover, it's reflected in the color choices of red. Again, still trying to be more cinematic than I've ever been for the whole series, for the manga pages, but definitely for all the covers. Wanted to have fun with the color, seeing how these would be rendered in real life from the references, looking at other shows. This also reminded me of the Batman a little bit. Then rendering the silhouette at the bottom, but really giving it some depth and volume and really having it pop. I wanted something that would look like a killer poster. Would look amazing on a t-shirt and you wouldn't really necessarily know what show it's from, but you would just want to wear that t-shirt or want to have that poster on your wall. It wasn't necessarily easy, but I tried to make sure I had fun with it. Try to push myself a little bit, and I think that's something more artists should do. You don't necessarily always have to come out of your comfort zone, but every once in a while I want to have fun, and these are illustrations with the vein that I don't usually do, but I want to start doing and doing more of. I really want to expand what I've been able to do digitally just to give things a little bit more oomph. But not just in what I'm able to do with the software, but also beyond the traditional, beyond the simple stuff, and try to do something maybe a little bit more interesting, symbolic, fun to look at. Maybe you don't even necessarily need to be a fan of anime or manga or whatever to enjoy. More artsy, if you will. And I think I was able to accomplish that. We have the character, the figure behind the moon. So I did the drops with the perspective guide, but I also did them in different hues, some darker than others, some much lighter than others, depending on how close they were to the moon, because the light from that moon is reflecting on them. The character is essentially a silhouette, but the lights on the body are clearly visible, but not taking away too much from the silhouette itself. Nothing here is like flat black. Everything is still under the color red, which is symbolic for this chapter and what's happening within it. Danger, stop. Do not mess with this man. And I think I did okay, and hopefully you guys also think I pulled it off. Chapter 29, Scorcher. This one, out of all of them so far, I think is the most straightforward. I didn't want to be too smart with it, because I didn't want to stray too far away from what's narratively happening within the chapter. Sometimes I might do a chapter cover or illustration that seems like it's a far-fetched based off of what's happening in the chapter, but really, if you pay attention, it's much closer than you think. Like one of the chapter covers for Volume 4 is all the characters at the beach having fun, like your traditional out of nowhere anime beach episode. But if you pay attention, it actually fits the chapter very well, at least to me, while still allowing me to have that fun of drawing all the characters at the beach. With this one, I kept it simple. The two characters is a face-off. It's more of like a classic. It's not just in manga covers or chapter covers. It's also within the panels themselves. And I think it's a fun square-off that literally hints and tells you pretty much what's about to go down. Hopefully you guys don't miss it. I had fun doing it. I wanted to do something dark, but at the same time, even though there aren't any backgrounds, there was like a light from the background. So it's one of those things where it's so bright you don't see anything else but these characters, also hinting at what the main focus of this chapter is going to be. Put on my Ross Draw hat for a little bit of color dodge. And here we have Caesar on the left, Sano on the right, having a little face-off, giving the reader all of that shonen vibe energy. All the illustrations here were done in Clip Studio Paint. And the music you hear is pretty much original music. Most of it is from the original music I made for the motion comic with voiceover, which you can also find on the channel as well. Especially if you're new to Apple Black completely and you have no idea what's happening. Bottom line, do not miss Volume 4. These are all 3 illustrations you can see again, and in the next video I'll go over some of the little tricks you can do in Photoshop mostly once you're done with a finished illustration. So make sure you stick around for that. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Before you go smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. Follow me on all social media. Check out this next video for more. It's My Manga, and I'm Audi 9000.